Hey guys, and welcome back to Grace of a Military Child and Life podcast. Life from the perspective of a military family member is way different than a civilian standpoint. Military children and family members give up their hopes and dreams to be able to stand by and support their service member, and it isn't an easy lifestyle for anyone to live. I hope that this podcast is able to help connect the military community and give others just a glimpse into what the military life is like from the perspective of spouses and children. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Grace of a Military Child and Life podcast. Today, I'm here with Ashley, who's a military spouse. So welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, of course. So tell me kind of what it's like being a military spouse for you.
Well, being a military spouse for me is, I really like being a military spouse, first of all. And I love living on military bases and I love being able to do unique things, which is part of why being a military spouse is so cool to me, because I don't know if you know, but they say this at a lot of military events, less than 1% of all the people in the United States will join the military.
Right.
So less than 1%, which means that there's going to be an even smaller number of those that have spouses. And so it's really neat to be able to experience those kinds of, all the moving and even though there's tons of problems that go along with it, there's still a lot of cool stuff that other people don't get to experience, I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, because, we can live all over the country, all over the world, for a matter of fact, while, everyone else is kind of, living this civilian life. You kind of grow up in the same home, you live in the same city, you tend not to move outside of that comfort zone, outside of that bubble that you feel comfortable in.
Totally. And I was talking to a group the other day, and they were trying to get more military spouses to vote. And one of the things that we discussed was how military spouses can have more empathy because we move so much. We get out of the place that we grew up in. You meet all kinds of different types of people and you go, oh, not everywhere is the same. I can be friends with anybody and everything. And that's awesome. And so from my perspective, it makes me want to help people and try to bring more people together, so just being able to have those cool experiences. I've lived on the East Coast. I've not lived out of the country, with the military, but I have lived on the East Coast a lot and then West Coast as well. So it's neat to see the differences and how big the country is. I don't know, how many different places have you lived?
I lived in 3, Cleveland, Ohio, San Antonio, Texas, and now Cape Coral, Florida. So 3 completely different places.
Totally different places. Yeah. Texas. Yeah. San Antonio is a big base, right?
Yes. It's Joint Base Fort Sam Houston or Joint Base San Antonio. I think it's Joint Base San Antonio. And there's Fort Sam Houston, there's Randolph and Lackland, so an Army base and 2 Air Force bases, all kind of in the same area.
Real big. And that's neat. I live on a joint base now that's joint with the Army, Air Force. We've got a little bit of Marines and a Navy base as well. And, when they brought them all together to create joint bases, that has its problems because there's a lot of figuring things out there, but it also brings in, there's more things that you can go and take part in or, activities and stuff. Cause you're not, if my husband's in the Air Force, the Army's not going to kick me out if I go to their PX or whatever. So I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, those are totally different places. Cleveland, I grew up in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So that kind of similar big sports towns.
Yes, big rivalry towns.
Big rivalry sports towns. But I also think we have similar weather, where it's cold and dreary, but also like it's like say Vermont where it's cold and beautiful. Pittsburgh it's cold and snowing and just muddy because it would get warm and then it would create,
it would melt and oh my gosh. Yeah, it's fun, but looking back, my parents are like, I hate the snow, I'm so glad we moved out of the snow, and I'm like, I kind of miss it, but then it's like, you see the adult perspective and you're like, oh well, you have to go out and shovel snow and
Mm-hmm.
clear your driveway and car off before you can even consider leaving.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, it's not worth it.
You could be like some people that just do like a little bit on their windshield so they can only see just out. That's super unsafe. It's a bad idea.
Just a little, kind of like a cruise ship, a porthole.
Yeah, just a little portal. There you go. It's fine, officer. It's okay. But yeah, so I love being a military spouse. I also make a lot of videos online that sort of poke fun at the military or military life. But the whole point is to bring it full circle and to be able to support the military, to support military members, and to support organizations and families. But from my perspective, there's funny things about it. And ignoring those funny things doesn't make them go away. It doesn't help anybody by pretending it doesn't exist. So I like to make fun of them. And then maybe somebody will see a video of mine and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't behave that way. Maybe I should be kind to people.
Oh my gosh. Especially in like the military spouse community, like there's so much, I don't even know like the right word to use, but there's so much drama that can be caused within the military community too. So it's like, being kind to one another and like, saying, hey, maybe I should not have said that. Or
we're all in this together. Yes. And you know what? It's not the majority of military spouses are awesome, and it's just like any group. You get one that decides to cause drama and you don't know what's going on in their life as well.
Right.
But I actually, partially blame the military for why do military spouses, some of them take on their spouse's rank, or why do they behave in certain ways that others don't? And the military will, and you're getting married to a Marine. So you're going to see, and I'm sure you've seen with your dad being in the Army, that they bring the whole family on board, and they have to bring the whole family on board because the military needs that unit to stay together. They need you to keep that household running while your husband is deployed,
right,
to keep things going so that he doesn't have to focus on anything. He can just focus on the job. So they do the best that they can to make us all feel as part of the team as we can, because that person not being able to do their job that they've been trained for impacts national security. So them realizing that there's that part of it. And I've said this before, my husband's a pilot. Okay. They spend a lot of money to train pilots. I imagine many spouses, if I didn't want him to be in the Air Force, I could nag him to death till he left. It's like, you're going to American Airlines. This is where you're headed. So it's good that they include us. And, there's month of the military child, and there's military spouse appreciation day, and there's all that, because it isn't easy. You give up a lot of people give up their careers. I did an event for the Military Spouse Juris Doctorate Network, which is military spouses, judges, attorneys, people in the law profession. And I don't know if you know this, if you become an attorney and you're a military spouse and you move from state to state, unless that state has reciprocity for your bar exam, you have to retake the bar.
Yes. I was looking at being a doctor, and that's the same thing. And what if you move to another country?
Mm-hmm. You just don't. And in some cases with their laws, you're not able to work there either, just in general.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Nurses, teachers it's a struggle every time they move, because they have to get recertified in that new state. And it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing hammers you down. And then you end up, okay, well, let's just have 7 kids. Okay. You see military families that have tons of kids.
Yes.
And they're trying to do more with their lives. They can't work. Or that may just be whatever the choice that they want to make. But a lot of them, myself included, you go to job interviews and they say, oh, you're not, you're a military spouse. That's why you have all these gaps in employment. Well, when do you think you're going to move again? And if your husband deploys, you're just not going to work, or
Right.
and then you're just like, oh my God. So it never ends. I went to a job interview once and they said, does your husband know that you want to work here? And I was like, what are you going to do to me? Like, why should he be afraid? What is the deal? So those are some of the big problems that happen. You end up in situations where you can't get a job. Military spouses have a really difficult time getting jobs. And then now the price of food has gone way up. So we have food banks on military bases, and people, food banks and food donation centers. And there's a program called Military One Source, which is an awesome program that that you're eligible for as long as you're in DEERS, which is basically if you have an ID. And Military One Source, I had a meeting with them the other day. They have a whole part of their website dedicated to food banks that they have checked out near military bases. That's how bad the problem is, that they're like, here are places that you can go buy food, with the baby formula shortage and things like that. That's terrible.
It is.
So,
yeah. And military spouses are, denied jobs left and right, more or less. So it doesn't make the problem any better. And, there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah, well, I'm working on it. I'm going to start banging some doors. We're going to try to get some laws changed. Use as many my silly videos as I can to try to get the attention of people and companies to hire military spouses, because there's especially now, everything's on the computer. You can have military spouses that work from home and move from place to place. Why the heck would you care where they live? We don't typically want people in offices now anyway. So why not have an amazing employee that as opposed to just somebody that you're just taking just because they might not move. People don't stick in jobs now for more than a few years anyway.
Yeah. And COVID sucks. COVID sucks. That's just plain and simple. But the one thing that's nice that's come out of it is all these remote jobs and, all these opportunities that can be done from home, from wherever in the world, as long as you have a computer, Wi-Fi, internet, all those simple things that most places you go will have. So why not, extend all of your job opportunities to include, military spouses that might move?
Absolutely. I think that some of it comes down to the perception that you got free housing. Some people think you got free food. Some people think that military wives got a paycheck. Like there's stuff like that comes out to it. And it all comes out of their paycheck, the rent in but military housing is privatized on most bases. There's a couple that it isn't, but on most bases you pay rent to a company and they take all of the money. And every time it goes up, they continue to take all of the money. And like in DC, you can pay over $3,000 a month in rent and live on base.
Yeah, which is
depending
crazy
on rank.
And most people don't understand.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can change some things, kick some butts, take names. That's what I'm up to now.
Yeah, because it's so important. If one person doesn't stand up and say, hey, this isn't right, this needs to be changed, nobody else is going to stand up and do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some, it's just something that you can't say you can't work and then also make food too expensive to buy. So that you need two incomes. That doesn't add up in my mind. So something needs to be fixed there.
Yeah. And, that's just a nutshell of the struggles that military families and spouses and children and, even service members face. Service members say, hey, I'm going to sign up and put my life on the line, more or less. And, families still have to fight to say, hey, no, we still need the simple amenities in life too.
Yeah. Especially when you're picking up your life probably every 2 to 3 years. The shortest I've lived in a place is 9 months and then we up and moved. But you pick up your life and then you go to a new place and you have to meet new people, make new friends, try to find a job, figure everything out. And you lose money every time you PCS, permanent change of station. That's when they move. You lose money. There's no, like, they're supposed to reimburse you for everything, but it's so difficult. You get like, there's moving companies that will come and move your stuff. But I've had movers cancel on me at the last minute. We had to move all of our stuff ourselves because we had to be at a place. Our house wasn't open for months. So we lived in an RV, we had a fam camp for months, it's all the little things that people do to make it all work. And the system could just be a bit better, a bit less complicated.
Yeah, because, you never know what's going to happen. The military life is so unpredictable that you can't be like, okay, I'm going to move here. It's going to be a smooth transition. No, there's always going to be a bump in the road, and you have to figure out something. You have to figure out where you're going to live for a period of time, or where your stuff is, whatever it may be. You have to figure it out yourself.
Yeah. I mean, just living in hotels, you do that quite a bit.
Yeah.
We've gone across the country twice, and that takes, the military will only move one car. For some reason, I've never quite figured that out. Like, most families have two cars, but they'll only move one. So then you end up driving across the country, and that takes, 6 to 9 days, depending on how that works. And that becomes your vacation. My husband and I, we've never gone on an actual vacation. We were talking about this the other day. We've never gone on a vacation. Our vacations are always driving full speed across the country in, trying to get to whatever the next duty station is to make sure that he can be where he needs to be.
Yeah. And that's how it goes. That's seriously how many families, do things, because you can't just say, hey, I'm going to take today off. You have to request that in advance.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yes. So what are some of the joys that you've experienced in military life? What are, flipping the script? What are some of the good things that you've experienced?
Oh, meeting all the people and all, even through like the videos that I post, meeting all the people that can relate to those types of funny things, meeting people on different bases. I cause a lot of trouble pretty much wherever I go. So I'm always the silly person at an event. Like, we have, the Air Force song is sung at the end of every event. So, and each branch has their own song, and nobody really knows the words to the songs. But I know the words, and I scream them. I go all out. I am hand gestures, just going all for it. So things like that really make me laugh. Being able to be a part of things that are helpful, seeing people leave for deployments, come back for deployments as a whole unit. So you get to see everybody coming off and their families be happy.
Right.
That's always super neat. And I've been a key spouse, which in the Air Force, I'm not sure what the other services might call it, but I think the Navy calls it an ombudsman. It's basically a unpaid volunteer position that when people deploy, I would call their families and say, hey, how you doing? Everything okay? Have you been able to contact them in their deployed location? All right. If you need anything, give me a call. Right. And you kind of just try to make sure that everything, you're a link between that family and the base still, because you can kind of get lost when your spouse is gone.
Yeah, because you don't know what to do. And sometimes you don't know that you need help, and you don't know how to ask for help, or where help can be found, or, any of those resources.
Or you're afraid to ask for help because there might be a stigma attached to it, which is terrible. Try to get the help you need as soon as you can. Yeah,
because the longer you wait, sometimes the bigger the problem gets.
Right. It doesn't go away. Exactly.
Yeah. So the military definitely needs, people like that to step into those roles and be like, hey, even asking how you are, because some days are better than others. And, some people just need someone to talk to.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Definitely. So what made you want to start those videos that you've been posting on like Instagram, and what made you want to start those? What was your motivation?
Well, so I've been a stand-up comedian I did stand-up comedy before I started those videos. And, I didn't talk about any of the military stuff on stage, for a couple of different reasons. One, I was trying not to, disrupt my husband's career at all.
Right.
And I knew that as soon as I started, it was going to be bad. And so we just got to a point where we're like, okay, I'm just going to start doing this, and he's going to retire soon anyway. So they can't do anything to him. So it's fine. So I just thought, I'm just going to start blowing this up. Let's see what we can do. And it's a lot of people told me there wasn't going to be an audience for it. And that like people just won't get it. And I get people that have no military affiliation. They just support the military and they like it. And they might not get the nuance of it all. Like I did a video where I said, if you think that you're dating a real military member, you need to check his ankles, because if his ankles don't have the hair rubbed off from his boots, he's faking it. And that kind of thing, which is so in the weeds of how it all works out. If you've been in for like more than 10 years, the hair will never grow back on at least one of your ankles. And I had so many people messaging me going, I thought it was just me. Oh my God. Just too funny. Just stuff like that. But yeah, and I really like connecting with that community and building that up, because there's other military comedians, the people that have been in, and I've gotten to be a part of. There's an organization called the Armed Services Arts Partnership, which is totally free for dependents and spouses. Even if it's been a long time since your parents were in, you can still do it. And it is free comedy classes and writing classes and acting classes. And just go to asap.org. It's a super cool organization. And you get to meet other people like in your community that, in the military community that are interested in creative outlets.
Yeah.
So super cool. I got to help mentor one of their comedy classes, and it was so neat because even though the people that were in that may not want to go on to do it as a job, they still, I got to see their stories and, to see the different types of people and people that have had horrific things happen to them when they were deployed, and trying to talk about that in a funny way and trying to help them shape that. So it's super cool.
Yeah. My dad was actually injured in Afghanistan. He stepped on an IED. And one thing that we've, kind of done throughout the whole situation is bring comedy into it. My younger sister, like the first thing, it had been a month since we saw my dad in like post injury. So my mom flew down and spent a month with him, kind of just feeling out the situation before she brought us there, because we were 8 and 9 at the time. And the first thing my sister said to my dad was, next time, watch where you're walking. And that was literally the first thing she said to him was, watch where you're walking next time. And so
how did he take? Did he laugh?
Oh, he laughed. The whole room just busted out in laughter because we didn't know how to react to it. Like,
what a line.
And an 8-year-old like walking into a hospital room, and that's the first thing she says. Like, brilliant. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so neat. And it is like, that's what I was saying earlier, that people think, oh, you can't make fun of these things because those are, but no, you can make fun of anything. It just has to be funny. And people do get offended. People get offended at my stuff all the time, but that's their problem.
Right.
That's not my problem. I haven't done anything to hurt anybody, but as soon as you can laugh, you start to feel better. You can find different ways. Just sitting in your own sadness can only get you so far.
We were, again, my sister, we were in Joe's Crab Shack one day, a couple months after, weeks after, whatever it was. And civilians are all around us. And so my dad ended up losing one of his legs. So he, an amputee. And my sister, she just asked him, what's 2 + 1? And he's arguing back and forth that it's 3. And he got so upset. He looked at my mom. He's like, tell your daughter 2 + 1 is 3. In the calmest voice, she looks at him and goes, no, Dad, it's you because you have 2 arms and 1 leg. And the whole restaurant is like looking at us like, you were just yelling at your daughter because 2 + 1 is 3. And then you just start laughing because
she's a comedian. Oh my God. She's got it locked and loaded. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Good. But you need that stuff. And I'm sure he gives it back,
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. There's no way he's going to, he's going to tease you guys too. So
yes.
So funny.
Oh my gosh. But one of the last things I always like to ask is, what advice would you give to another military spouse?
Oh, okay. Enjoy, absolutely try to enjoy every piece of it because it's all a unique experience. And I try to practice the idea that nobody, like things like words can't hurt me, right? Nobody's actually done anything to me. It's all about my perspective. So if somebody has done something, it's up to me to decide whether they've hurt me or not.
Yeah.
So along the road, it's all your perspective. You can flip it and you can find a different way to look at it. Find ways to help others in whatever way you can. You do not have to be a military spouse that goes and plants succulents and drinks coffee at 7:30 in the morning at somebody's house where you're wearing a sundress. I can't do that. I couldn't do it. I just type back, F you. Why are you texting me this early in the morning? How could you do this? And you can make your own groups. There's a diverse groups of people. And one of the things when I posted on my Instagram stories, what's the most misunderstood thing about military spouses or military in general? And people said it's that we're all one political party.
Right.
And they said, and repeatedly, it was like, no, we are all over the map. It's not just one way or another. We're a whole different groups of people coming with diverse experiences into one place. And the one thing that unites us is that we love our service members and we love our country and the military, and we want to be able to support that.
Yeah.
So do the things that make you feel good. Feel free to say no. You don't have to be captain of the spouses league bowling team. You don't have to do any of that. You can give them the middle finger and keep on walking. That's fine.
Yes.
So yeah, just enjoy it as much as you can. It's because it's a unique experience.
Yes, for sure. Where can people find you on socials?
Everywhere. I am at Ash Gutermuth, which is ASHGUTERMUTH. And if you're on social media long enough, you'll see a video of me. I post a lot.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast and sharing your experience and journey as a military spouse.
Thank you so much. I hope to be able to talk to you again someday.
Yes, of course.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Grace of a Military Child and Life. Make sure to set a reminder for every Tuesday to listen to a new episode. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube at Grace of a Military Child and Life. If you have any questions or want to be on the podcast, send a message to one of our social media platforms or email grace.of.a.military.child@gmail.com. See you next week.